With the federal government expected to hit the debt ceiling possibly as early as June, House Republicans want to pass a strong debt limit bill before the end of April. But what is the path forward with President Biden and Democrats refusing to negotiate? Well, joining me now to discuss this and much more is Congressman Kevin Hern. He serves on the House Ways and Means Committee, and he's also the chairman of the Republican Study Committee. He represents Oklahoma's 1st Congressional District. Congressman Hern, welcome back to the program.
Tony, it's so good to be with you.
Now, you have urged Republicans in the House to pass a strong debt limit bill this month. You said we got to work night and day to get this done. Tell us why.
Well, the American people want to see us do what they elected us to do in November, which is lead on this issue. The Democrats in their spending, especially the last omnibus bill that they passed in the last fall, created the debt crisis that we've seen now since January 19th when Secretary Yellen announced this. And I put out a letter and said every big spending change has occurred when we've had a debt limit debate. And so here we are. We've had now some 87, 88 days to talk, and we've gathered a lot of information from our members. The leadership has done a great job of listening to all voices. Now's the time to put together a bill, get it on the floor, and vote on it next week. Because what's going to happen if we don't, certainly what we're seeing right now is in the Senate, we're seeing the criteria leak out, and now we're even having Republican senators push back on things such as work requirements without even fully understanding what's going to be in the potential bill going forward.
Is it a problem that the White House is saying, look, we're not going to negotiate on this. We want a clean debt ceiling? I mean, should there not be conversations going on about a way forward here?
Well, when you've been the author of some $10 trillion in spending that's caused the inflation that every American is feeling now, higher energy costs for your home, higher fuel for your cars, higher food prices, we're now starting to see the economy have layoffs. The interest rates are still high and going higher. This president has lost touch with reality. And quite frankly, he has said one thing and done the other so many times, including just recently the crime bill that passed the House, a Republican crime bill that he said he would never support, and he did. The president needs to see a debt limit deal put on the floor, get it voted on by 218 Republicans and sit to the Senate, and have the Democrats tell the American people why they want to continue to spend and jeopardize the future of their kids and grandkids.
I want to talk in just a moment about what is going to be in that debt ceiling bill in terms of the trade-offs here. But first, you made reference to the inflation. Inflation is now at 5%. The president, the White House spinning that, saying, hey, it's a good thing. We're down to 5%. In fact, taking credit for the last 9 months of decline. What's the real story here?
Well, again, they just have lost touch with reality. There's other things that are going on right now, the policies they've done, such as taking away our ability to be energy dominant when we had prices at the pump below, $1.79, $1.89 for a number of years under President Trump, to now where our average prices are up about $3.50, $4 again, going upwards since the announcement by Saudi Arabia to curtail production. This is the same old story that we saw prior to the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act, prior to Donald Trump, where we saw things that where the Middle East could control our energy costs. They drove up the price of the pump. Many Americans have limited income, and driving back and forth to work, taking their kids to school is a very significant part of this. And the president needs to understand they can't destroy the American economy for some left-wing ideology that we're going to somehow get rid of combustion engines in this country. And so this is all part of his grand plan, or certainly whoever's running his media outlets, his propaganda machine, to destroy fossil fuels, which are so instrumental in great paying jobs in America.
So let's go to the debt ceiling bill. What can we anticipate being in there in terms of the restraining, pulling back on government spending? Of course, as soon as that word comes out, you've got Chuck Schumer over in the Senate and the White House saying, oh, Republicans are going to cut Medicare. They're going to cut Social Security, even though you've said a multitude of times that's not going to happen.
No, and certainly the Social Security Medicare conversation are not part of the debt limit. Work requirements are something that President Bill Clinton, a Democrat, did not back in 1996. It's restoring those work requirements that were so effective in having budget surpluses for 4 years in a row, leading up to the technology bubble that we had in 2001, certainly out of control of that particular bill. But also, in the bill, what we have is we actually borrowed an idea from Joe Manchin, a Democrat senator, where we're talking about rolling back spending to 2022, looking at the sort of the pre-COVID numbers, capping that, and then allowing it to grow at 1% a year for 10 years. These are all part of that. As I just mentioned about the energy dominance, we're seeing the Biden White House actually open up pipelines now because they're getting the picture that they can continue to do stuff just on wind and solar. So that's part of the plan as well. And then issues making sure that only Americans can get the child tax credit, not illegal immigrants that are coming into this country. So these are all part of the conversations that are going on right now that I think are getting us closer and closer to a bill that we could vote on, as soon as next week.
So, Congressman Hern, as you describe it there, if we're to roll back the federal budget, which ballooned during COVID, and just have a cap where it only grows 1% a year, that could actually get us on a path of balancing the budget.
Well, certainly, you mentioned RSC chair. I had Fed Chairman Powell as our guest 2 weeks ago for our weekly lunch. And, he mentioned that, one of the most responsible things that Congress could do is to get our growth in spending to match our growth in revenues. At least we would, as a percentage of revenues, we would stabilize the deficits that we're seeing annually and start getting our arms around the debt as we go forward. And it's no different than what the American people have to do every single day. People in Washington want to try to make it more complicated, so they seem like they're the smartest people in the room. But the reality is it's just sitting down at the table, having a bipartisan approach to solving the problems of the future. We have more revenues coming in as the tax revenues coming in than we've ever had in the history of this country. But we're spending about 4 times faster than where our revenue growth is, and we've got to get that back in line. We're
almost up against a break, and I know you're going to stick with us. We're going to have some conversation on some other topics on the side of the break. But very quickly, there was some discussion early on about maybe a rolling back of all of these new IRS agents and new spending for the IRS. Is that going to make its way into this bill?
I think some of that will. Certainly the IRA credits where we're going and completely destroying the fossil fuel industry, that's also included in the H.R. 1. So that gets in there. That's going to have some of that rollback. Where we're talking about just handing out cash to people to go out and start up businesses. That would be part of the rollback, getting us back to where we reset the economy, take our hand off the scale of trying to destroy our fossil fuel industry. And so those are all part of it. The American people are very concerned with what's gone on with the IRS, and certainly looking at what aspects of that we can roll back that haven't already been funded.
They're very concerned about how their own government is being weaponized against them, and there's no place that's more acute than the IRS. I want to get your reaction to the court battle over the abortion pill that has been unfolding.
Yeah, Tony, I think there's a lot of issues going on there. My personal opinion is the chemical abortions, the abortion pill is a dangerous, solution for what, some of the pro-choice people want to say for the last 20 years. And we had the judge rule in Texas and then overruled in Washington. Now we have the Justice Alito saying that he's staying the Texas decision until this whole court can hear it. But, it's pretty sad when you see the vice president, saying that when you want to protect life, that we're extremists. I think you start out your show talking about that somehow protecting a baby to be born and giving a chance at life and to experience the glories of God in this world, that's an extreme position. I'll tell you what's an extreme position, and that's abortion on demand, partial birth abortions, even as heinous as it sounds, which is it's actually factual, is allowing babies to be born alive and then allowed to die just because they were blessed by God to be born after a botched abortion. And then when you see what all this has to do with what's going on here, that's what's extreme. Right. And I'll tell you how you prove that, Tony. And we put a bill on the floor in January on the born alive issue, a bill. Only one Democrat supported abolishing that opportunity.
I was going to ask you about that they had a clear vote. Only one member of the Democratic Party voted for that bill. And all that does is says if a child survives an abortion and is born alive, that you would give medical care to that child. I mean, that is extreme. That is extremely extreme. I want to play this clip just so people don't think we're putting words in the vice president's mouth. Play clip number 7 again.
This is a critical point in our nation's history. We are seeing around the country in a myriad of ways those who would dare to attack fundamental rights and by extension attack our democracy.
So, for you and I wanting to protect unborn children, they're now claiming that is an attack on our democracy. That's radical, incendiary speech, if you ask me.
It is, Tony, and what you're seeing right now with this woke agenda is insane. During the FDA's last approval, you can now get the Mifepristone through the mail. Congresswoman Harshberger has pushed back on the FDA. I've got a bill out there that says they can no longer use a pandemic or a public health emergency to do this again. Completely removing the opportunity or the necessity of a woman actually talking to somebody who can prescribe the abortion pill. These are all part of this woke agenda. They just want to do everything they can to destroy the future lives of God's precious gift. And this is totally insane. That is extreme. We're going to continue to push back. We're seeing state legislatures across the country, like Oklahoma and others, that are doing their own abortion laws. I think that's where it should be done, and that's where it's being done across America. Yeah,
and it's doing, and it's happening, and that's what they're upset about. In fact, I want to play a clip from Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin. She was on NBC Meet the Press this weekend commenting on the Texas ruling, and I mean, don't laugh when you hear this clip because, well, I'll play the clip, then I'll comment. Clip number 10.
Look, what we have in Texas is a judge who was not guided by science, but is part of a extreme Republican concerted effort to ban abortion nationwide.
This coming from the party that can't determine male from female, the party of anti-science, now claiming that this judge somehow is not being guided by science.
Yeah, I don't have any words. It's really pretty sad. I think what you're seeing with this judge is respecting God's creation. And, again, when you talk about follow the science, we know that a child's heartbeat can be heard very early. Certainly, again, going back to what I said earlier, the Democrats are okay with a child from a botched abortion being left to die after being born. I've been privileged to hear the stories of so many across the country of these particular situations. And I obviously these doctors are unknown, but I just want to reach out and say thank you. Just praise God that these doctors took care of these children at birth, and they've grown up to tell the story. And I think that's what has to continue to happen, is to tell the stories. If you think about it, extreme, since 1973 up until Dobbs' decision last year, some 70 million babies aborted in the 49 years. That's extreme. Those are faces of children that we'll never see. There'll be one place they'll be seen, and that will be in heaven. And for those parents, those people that are out there, they will have a voice that will be so powerful that we'll all see that glory someday.
Congressman, as you are doing on Capitol Hill, advancing this issue, this is not the time for conservatives, for Republicans to lose their voice on life. For 4 decades, the Republicans primarily have championed the unborn, and I believe it was a part of getting us to the point of Dobbs. Now's not the time to go silent, is it?
It isn't. I think everybody's having to reposition a little bit to see how they support the states as they're out there working across the country to fill in the patchwork of those states that have not come yet to a position of recognizing what we need to do with the abortion laws in America. It'll be on the ballot, I'm certain, as we go into next year, as we go into this election season. And Americans need to know that Republicans are standing strong on behalf of pro-life movements across America.
All right, Congressman Kevin Hern, always great to see you. Thanks so much for taking time to join us today.
Great to see you, Tony.